Hello everyone, welcome back with another video where revenge is sweet but the Nora got the recipe. So without wasting time, let's dive into the story with the Nora's voice.
She's not even really yours, my husband said with a grin, sipping eggnog like it was nothing. My mother-in-law chuckled behind her phone. She'll find out eventually, better to make it funny. Then came the gift. Wrapped in shiny red foil, a perfect bow. And inside, Mommy, my daughter whispered, holding the manila envelope. Why did Grandma give me adoption papers? Everyone laughed. Loud. The phone was filming. Of course it was. But I didn't laugh. I just knelt beside her, brushed her curls back and whispered, Sweetheart, you don't need to open that. Let me hold it for now. Her tiny hands were shaking. And her eyes, those wide caramel brown eyes, stared up like she already knew this house wasn't kind. Hi everyone. My name is Alyssa Quinn. And if you think you've seen the worst a family can do during the holidays, stay close. Because the next 6 days would take me from the woman holding her child's tears to the one holding the truth. Christmas morning felt like a trap. Fake smiles. Filming. Candid cruelty. I watched as my husband's sister zoomed in on my daughter's face, right as her chin quivered. Then she giggled, Oh my God, that's so viral. She actually cried. I asked them calmly, Can you please not film her? My mother-in-law rolled her eyes. It's just a joke. She's sensitive like you. And then, silence. Except for the quiet beeping of my daughter's toy still stuck on demo mode. I took her upstairs, tucked her into my chest like a shield. And that's when she asked, Am I yours, Mama? Or someone else's? I kissed her forehead and lied. Later that night I sat in the laundry room behind the boiler and opened the envelope. What I saw wasn't a joke. It was a forged document with my signature. A paper trail someone built months ago. Suddenly, I knew what they'd been planning. Why they kept pushing for family photos without me. I didn't cry. I just picked up my phone and searched. Private DNA test. Results in 5 days or less. The new year was coming. And I had just enough time to ruin their favorite tradition. Because the next thing I'd unwrap was every lie they ever told. And this time I'd be filming. The test kit arrived 2 days later, disguised in an unmarked envelope. I signed for it with steady hands, but my chest? It felt like thunder beneath a calm sky. My daughter was coloring snowflakes in the living room when I walked in. I sat beside her. Can I brush your hair today? I asked softly. She nodded, and I ran the comb gently through her strands, collecting the sample I needed, without her knowing. One strand. Enough to confirm what I already felt in my bones. Downstairs I found my husband sleeping on the couch. A beer bottle balanced on his chest like a trophy. I stared at him. This man who used to pull me into his arms like I was something precious. Now he couldn't even look at me without sneering. I took his toothbrush. Back upstairs I sealed everything into the testing envelope, pressed the flap shut, and whispered, Let's see who's been playing house with fire. Hi again. Still Alyssa. Still the woman you left out of the family group chat. Still the one you mocked behind wine glasses and wrapping paper. But no. I had a clock ticking in my favor. And every second brought me closer to proof. The next day they were bolder. At dinner my sister-in-law raised her phone again. Smile fake mommy, she teased. My husband chuckled. You're still mad about the joke? She needs thicker skin. I smiled. Thin. Pulled. Razor-edged. I served the turkey. Cleaned their plates. Tucked my daughter into bed while they poured more wine. But that night I logged into the tracking portal. And saw the update. Results in progress. 48 hours remaining. I stared at the blinking screen until it blurred. And for the first time in weeks I whispered out loud. Please. Let her be mine. Not for revenge. Not for ego. But because that little girl, the one who calls me Mama in her sleep, she is mine. Whether paper agrees or not. I didn't sleep that night. Just listened to the heating pipes groan through the walls. And the laughter downstairs as they watched the video of her crying again. What kind of people find joy in breaking a child? But it's fine. New Year's Eve was approaching. And I was preparing fireworks. Just not the kind they could drink to. Because when the results came in, no one would be laughing. New Year's Eve morning. The sky outside was dull gray, like even the weather knew what was coming. My phone buzzed once. No fanfare, no confetti. Just a notification. Your DNA results are ready. I stared at the screen. My fingers hovered. My eyes scanned the page. And there was, in plain, clinical font, probability of maternity, 99.9999%. He's mine. He's mine. He's mine. Not just in my heart, but in science, in blood, in truth. My knees hit the floor before I even realized I was kneeling. Tears spilled silently, not from doubt but from relief. Like my soul had been holding its breath for years. I wiped my face and stood up slowly. Then I printed the report. 3 copies. One for me. One for my husband. One for the woman who gave my daughter that envelope. But I wasn't done. I opened the second folder I'd been building quietly for months. Photos of bruises they claimed were clumsy play. Audio clips of whispered insults caught on the baby monitor. The forged adoption paper. And now, the DNA report. I slid them all into a binder labeled Truth. Hi. Still Alyssa. But now. Now I'm the woman they should have never underestimated. The quiet one. The forgiving one. The one they didn't know had inherited this house before they ever moved in. That part came later, after the funeral. When the lawyer called and said, "Your aunt left everything to you." My husband said, "That's great, babe. Now we're really set." That word burned. So I let them move in. I let them redecorate. I let them mock. All while I signed nothing over. Because the deed, it's in my name, always has been. That evening I set the binder on the living room table. They were all there. Laughing. Drinking. Waiting for midnight. My daughter was upstairs, safe, watching cartoons with headphones on. I stood in the doorway and said, "Before the new year starts, I have a gift." They turned. I opened the binder, page by page, and began to speak. Calm. Slow. Final. And as the clock ticked toward midnight, I watched their faces shift. Smirks, to silence. Laughter, to denial. Confidence, to collapse. And that's when I handed them one more thing. An eviction notice. Effective immediately. Because the new year wasn't about fireworks. It was about freedom. "You can't be serious," my husband muttered, grabbing the eviction notice with shaking hands. My mother-in-law scoffed. "This house isn't even yours to evict us from." I said nothing. Just reached into my folder and pulled out the deed. Black ink. My name. My aunt's signature. Stamped. Notarized. "You're bluffing," my sister-in-law snapped, suddenly pale. I looked her dead in the eye. "Then call a lawyer." Silence fell over the room like a dropped chandelier. Even the dog stopped chewing. "Hi. Alyssa again. And this is the part no one ever expects. The part where the quiet woman owns the ground they walk on. You see, when my aunt passed, she left me everything. Because I was the only one who ever came to visit when she was sick. The only one who didn't ask for money. The only one who sat by her bedside and read her poetry. So when she gave me the house, I cried. My husband, he celebrated. Then moved his family in like it was his birthright. I let it happen. Until they made my daughter cry on Christmas. Now, I walked to the door, opened it wide, and said, "You have 3 hours. Take what's yours. And leave." My mother-in-law laughed. "You're not throwing out your own husband." He stood there stunned. Red creeping into his cheeks. And all I said was, "I'm not throwing you out. I'm letting you go." He lunged toward me, not to hit, just to scare. Old tactics. But I didn't flinch. I just stepped back and pointed. "Cameras. 4 of them. One in every corner. And everything is backed up to the cloud." He froze. Then said something low, ugly. Something I won't repeat here. I simply turned and walked upstairs. Past their mutters. Past their threats. To my daughter's room. She looked up at me with tired eyes. "Is it midnight yet?" she whispered. I kissed her forehead. "No, baby. But it's morning now." She didn't understand the words. But I think she felt them. Because that night, for the first time in weeks, he slept soundly. While downstairs, the people who shattered her innocence, packed in silence. By 3:17 a.m. they were gone. Suitcases tossed into the back of borrowed cars. Yelling in whispers. Threats through clenched teeth. But they left. And when the last engine faded down the road, I locked the door and collapsed to the floor. Not from grief. Not from guilt, but from relief. Hi. Still Alyssa. Still standing, though barely. It's strange, isn't it? How a house can feel so full of noise, and still echo with loneliness. I sat on the cold marble tile, knees pulled to my chest, and let the silence wrap around me. Not peace. Not yet. But something close. I glanced at the table, the binder still open to the DNA page. Her face flashed in my mind again. That moment she asked, "Am I yours?" And this time, I smiled. "Yes, baby," I whispered to the empty room. "You are." The next morning, the sun poured through the windows like a soft apology. My daughter ran into the kitchen barefoot, curls bouncing, clutching her stuffed bunny. "Where's Grandma?" she asked. I knelt and held her hands. "She went home, sweetheart." She tilted her head. "But this is our home." Pause. Then I nodded. "Yes. Now it really is." We spent the day baking cookies. Just us two, the way it began before anyone else tried to rewrite our story. Every room felt lighter. No phones pointed at us. No laughter with poison laced between syllables. Just the sound of spoons clinking and her voice singing off-key. That afternoon I opened every window. Let the wind in. Let their scent out. The house seemed to breathe again. But peace is a process. Because later that night, my phone buzzed. A group chat notification. "Family, no Alyssa." The message read, "Can you believe she kicked us out over a joke? Psycho." Another. "She's always been jealous. She stole that child." And then a photo. My daughter's crying face on Christmas morning, still being passed around like a meme. I stared at it. And for a moment, I almost let the anger win. But then I remembered. They only have gossip. I have truth. And I was done playing their game. So I clicked download. Saved every message. Every insult. Every image. Because if they wanted war, they should have learned not to bring laughter to a woman who's been through fire. Next time they come for me, they'll meet the lawyer first. 2 days later, I met with a woman named Claire. Sharp suit, sharper mind. Family law attorney. Referred by a friend who simply said, "She doesn't lose." We sat in her office as I handed her the binder. She flipped through slowly. DNA results, adoption forgery, harassment screenshots, viral videos of a crying child. She didn't say much. Just circled things in red. Then looked up and said calmly, "They're finished." I exhaled for the first time in what felt like years. Hi again. Alyssa's still here. Not as a victim. Not as a wife. But as a mother who's done watching her child be used as a punchline. Claire filed a restraining order that day. On my behalf and my daughter's. She also launched a case for digital harassment and child exploitation. Apparently, filming and distributing a video of a minor crying without consent? That's not a joke. It's evidence. And the forged adoption papers? A felony. I left her office with a folder full of legal paperwork and a quiet rage I no longer needed to suppress. That evening my husband tried calling. 14 times. Then he texted, "Let's talk. You've made your point." I stared at the screen and blocked the number. Then I turned to my daughter who was curled up on the couch watching her favorite cartoon. She looked up. "Can we stay here forever, Mama?" My voice cracked. "We already are, baby." But it wasn't over yet. Because the next morning my phone buzzed again. An unknown number this time. Voicemail. I played it on speaker while folding laundry. It was my mother-in-law. Her voice no longer smug but desperate. "You can't keep her from us. That child deserves to know her family. You're bitter, Alyssa. Twisting everything. You don't get to erase us." I stared at the laundry in my lap. Tiny socks, pink sweaters, one missing button. And I whispered not to her but to the walls. "You did that all on your own." They thought I'd break. That I'd fold the way I always had. But this time I wasn't cleaning up after anyone else's mess. I was rebuilding. Brick by brick. Paper by paper. Truth by truth. Because some families aren't lost. Some are removed. 1 week later a letter arrived. Certified. Stamped. Visual. From the state. Read. "Your complaint has been reviewed. The court finds sufficient cause to move forward with a hearing regarding custody interference, harassment and forgery. Temporary restraining orders remain in effect." I folded the paper neatly and smiled. Then I took a deep breath, walked upstairs and opened the drawer where my daughter's adoption gift still sat, untouched since Christmas. I placed the court letter beside it. Side by side. Lie and truth. Poison and antidote. Hi, still Alyssa. Still that woman they underestimated. But now. Now I'm the woman they can't reach. Legally. Physically. Emotionally. It was a Saturday when the doorbell rang. I checked the peephole instinctively. Claire had advised me never to answer the door without looking. And there she was. My sister-in-law. Wearing fake tears and holding a teddy bear like it was a peace offering. Her boyfriend stood beside her holding his phone, filming again. I opened the door but didn't unlatch it. She blinked at me through the screen. Please, just let us explain. We didn't mean to hurt her. It was a joke. You've taken it too far. I said nothing. She held up the bear. We just want to give her this. We're family. Behind me, my daughter peeked around the hallway corner. Her small voice rose gently. Is that the lady who laughed when I cried? My sister-in-law froze. And I answered softly but firmly. Yes, sweetheart. That's her. Then I turned to the door. Held up the court letter. And slid it against the glass. Court date is February 4th. Your jokes can explain themselves there. Her boyfriend lowered the camera. She turned pale. I closed the door without another word. Locked it. Then dropped the teddy bear directly into the trash bin outside. When I came back in, my daughter looked up at me. Are they gone? I knelt, hugged her tight and whispered. Yes. And they don't get to come back. That night we watched the snow fall through the window. Just us. No yelling. No phones. No traps. Because this house. It belonged to peace now. And peace had finally unpacked its bags. The courtroom smelled like dust and old wood. I sat on the left, alone but grounded. On the right, my husband, his mother, and his sister. Dressed in forced grace, clinging to each other like ruins in a storm. The judge flipped through the binder Claire had prepared. Page by page. Evidence by evidence. The video. The forged papers. The texts. The voicemail. The eviction. The DNA. Every lie, lined up like dominoes. And every truth waiting to push them down. Hi. Alyssa, one last time. And this was the part where I didn't even need to speak. Because when they played the video of my daughter opening the gift, the entire courtroom shifted. You could hear her little voice shaking. See her hands trembling. Watch them all laughing while she wept. Even the bailiff looked away. My husband's lawyer tried. She was overreacting. The papers were blank. It was a holiday prank gone too far. But the judge leaned in and asked one question. Did anyone stop filming when she cried? Silence. Then the ruling came like thunder dressed in law. Full custody granted to the mother. No visitation. Restraining orders extended for 5 years. And a formal warning issued to all parties for emotional endangerment of a minor. I didn't cry. I didn't smile. I just stood up and walked out. Outside the sky was bright. Cold, clean. I opened the car door and there she was. My daughter holding her favorite stuffed bunny. Bouncing in her seat like the world was new. Did we win, Mama? I looked at her. This tiny soul with a heart too big for what they put her through. And I nodded. Yes, baby. We won. But it wasn't about revenge anymore. It wasn't about payback, eviction, or even the law. It was about silence. The kind that comes after a storm. The kind that hugs you back. The kind that says, you never needed their approval to belong. That night I tucked her into bed. Lights dimmed. House still. And as I walked down the hallway, I passed the mirror. Stopped. Looked at myself. Really looked. And for the first time in years, I saw peace. Not because they were gone, but because I remembered who I was. Before they convinced me I was nothing. To every woman who's ever been mocked for loving too deeply, for staying too long, for believing that silence keeps a family together. I see you. And if this ever happened to you, say, same in the comments. Because healing doesn't knock. It walks in when you finally open the door.